Hey, this is Munder Difflin, and I'm addicted to fantasy football. I'm Munder Difflin. That's my Twitter handle. You've probably also seen my name is Scott. Last name starts with an R. So what I did is I took my first name, then I put my last initial on it, and I made that my name on Twitter. So now is probably a good time to pause, let you collect yourself from that revolutionary information I just provided. All right, moving on. So anyway, I'm doing this video as a way to introduce myself with a little bit more depth than what's possible, with the 240 character limits and GIFs and all that kind of stuff. I recently became active in this community, and I gotta say, I'm having a blast. I'm having the time of my life. So I'm gonna follow it. I'm gonna just go with it because it makes me happy, it makes me feel good, and in December of 2020, if you find something that makes you feel good and makes you happy, you grab it and you hold on to it and you keep it. So that is what I'm doing. A little bit about myself. I am married with 2 rad daughters. I live in Seattle, Washington. Let's see what else. A couple things you might not know about Seattle. Let's see. For starters, it does not rain every day of the year. It's not even really close to the highest rain total in the country or the world. But if you want to go ahead and think it rains here all the time, that's fine by me. Let's see, what else? During all the protests, Seattle was not a lawless hellscape like some of the media portrayed it. There was one small area in one small area of Seattle where there were some issues that got a lot of attention, and it was a big deal. But it was not a lawless Mad Max hellscape, just so you know. Lastly, things about Seattle. There's a stereotype that we don't know how to drive in the snow, and that's true. So, as you can see, I'm a huge 49ers fan. That's a joke. I'm a big Seahawks fan, Mariners fan, That's been what it's been. Storm, Huskies. About the NBA. Let's see. Little preface, I'm not going to be watching my language on these videos, just so you know. So I hope I don't offend anybody. But as far as the NBA goes, fuck Oklahoma City and the Oklahoma City Thunder. I don't really have any issues with people from Oklahoma City. I don't really have any issues with any of the players on the Oklahoma City team. That being said, Oklahoma City Thunder can eat a bag of dicks. Let's see. What else to introduce myself? This is a new medium. I might seem a little scattered. It's a new medium for me. I'm not usually on video, but ever since I've kind of started joining this fantasy community, whether I'm walking my dog, driving my car, whatever I'm doing, I have all these thoughts in my head about things I want to say, things I want to write, just all this stuff that needs to get out. So that's part of why I'm doing this right here, right now. Admittedly, in the last few years, I haven't been in a lot of leagues. Kids, job, yada, yada, yada. Haven't been in a ton of leagues, but I don't necessarily see the amount of leagues you're in or what type of leagues you're in, whether you're doing all dynasty auction or whether you're just doing casual redrafts. I don't really see that as an indicator of your fantasy knowledge. I greatly enjoy having fantasy football teams, but this whole trying to get my foot in the door with fantasy analysis, it's more just about loving the analysis. It's about loving extracting and organizing data, which is basically what fantasy football analysis is. So anyway, I'm probably going to ramble a little bit, but I've spent my whole life being self-conscious. I've spent my whole life worrying about what others think. I've spent my whole life being timid and antisocial, and probably a lot to do with this pandemic. I'm just saying screw that right now. So I'm just coming in. So get used to me. That's what I look like. So get used to me. I'm going to be around. I'm going to be butting into your threads and posting GIFs and doing my best with my rudimentary knowledge of how to present fantasy knowledge as I go off on this adventure. I wrote some stuff down. I usually do this kind of stuff on the fly, but I wrote some stuff down. So let's see. What do I have to talk about next? I am going to finish this with a little bit of fantasy advice, so don't scroll away yet. Um, like I said, I would say what I've put out there so far is fairly rudimentary. It's not like the most in-depth analysis, but as someone who not that long ago was just a casual fantasy participant, I really appreciated some of the simple stuff. It's anybody can go and look at the playoff matchups for running backs and list them in a tweet or list them in an article. Anybody can go do that if they want to. That's the thing about fantasy analysis. All that information is there for everyone. It's all available. The professionals, the veterans, they've just honed their craft in, like I said, extracting the information and organizing it in a way that is helpful, that is useful for other people playing fantasy football. Um, it's not about, I offer to answer questions. I jump in on people's questions, and I give my best opinion, analysis, and try and back it up with facts and statistics. But you know, whether you're an amateur like me or whether you're a seasoned veteran, we're not here to make decisions for people. A lot of people take it that way, and so then there's a lot of angry people when the decision doesn't go their way. But it's not about making the decisions. It's about presenting information, presenting our opinion to give you the best shot at making the right decision. But it's all on you to make the decision. I know that very well. At some point, I'm going to write an article that's kind of gives a little history of my fantasy involvement, and there's a couple of little embarrassing things that have happened to me. I have a fantasy decision I made that will haunt me to my grave, as I'm sure many of you do. But that's for another time. So, there's plenty of start-sit questions that get asked, and in a way, when somebody answers, you should start player A, then somebody will probably take that and say, okay, player A. So it's, loosely making decisions for people. But I just need to preface it. That's not what it is. It's not making anybody's decision for them. So anyway, that's probably enough out of me on that. Real quick before I get to the analysis. Some things I don't tolerate. This isn't any chest beating threat or anything like that. This is just telling you where I'm at, who I am. I don't tolerate bullying. I don't tolerate disrespect, especially when that disrespect is directed at a specific thing, like disrespect based on gender or skin color or ethnicity, any of that stuff. I don't tolerate it. I've learned my lesson in arguing and getting into fights on social media. I've learned my lesson on that. Facebook, not doing that. So I'm not sitting here telling you I'm going to call you out necessarily. I might, but just tell me where I'm at. That's where I'm at. He, him pronouns, right here. So, finish this off with a little bit of fantasy advice. One thing that's very easy to do, when you're making your decisions, when you're looking ahead, is you look at the matchups of your players' opponents. You look at how those opponents are ranked versus your running backs, or versus your quarterbacks, or versus your wide receivers, on and on and on. And that typically, if you're on just a standard platform, that is averaged out over the season. So you'll look and you'll find a team, they're 20th against quarterbacks for the season. But you got to know that doesn't tell the whole story. At the start of the season, it's very difficult to look at those rankings because there's only been a few games and things go all over the place. It's like, in the major leagues, people are batting 500 in the first 3 weeks. Yeah, that's not going to last. But, as the season progresses, it can get a little misleading. Like I said, a team that's ranked 20th versus quarterbacks for the season, there's a lot of variables there that you have to look at. There could be a team that is just dominant as far as that season-long stat, but they had a couple games in bad weather where nobody scored any points, and it skewed that average down. Or you have a team like the Seahawks, where there's nothing they can possibly do to get that statistic to make them look like they're good against receivers or quarterbacks. There's just not, historically bad. But they've been better lately. So you can't just base your decision solely on that season-long average. You got to look at, what's the trend in the last 6 games, the last 4 games? People get players back from injury, and that improves things. Or coaches get fired. There's so many variables that go into it. So I am not the first one to bring this up, believe me. I know the footballers and CBS and all those guys they bring this up all the time. But look at those defensive ranking trends in the last 3 weeks. I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole of reciting any of that for you right now, but I do plan on posting something, probably my little chain tweet thing, because I don't have anywhere to post things yet, showing what some of those trends are. Just so you don't get misled by sitting somebody because they're playing Team X, who has this amazing against running backs rating, but in the last 4 games, they've been terrible. They just were really good. So I plan on posting something like that, and hopefully that'll be helpful for you. So anyway, hope that wasn't too rambly. I hope you take the time to watch it all. Again, I'm super excited to be part of this. Appreciate all the support I've seen. I mean, it's only been 2 weeks. I'm a kid in the candy shop right now. And like I said, you know, if you find something makes you feel good during these times, just hold on to it. So with that, I'll see you guys all on Twitter. Peace.